The massive research vessel ISS Daegu drifted silently through the swirling colors of the Carina Nebula. Its smooth hull gleamed under the soft light of distant stars, a tiny spark of human engineering lost in the vast darkness of space. Captain Jae-sung Kim stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the ship's current position. "Yuna," he called to his chief science officer, "what do you make of those energy signatures?" Yuna Park leaned closer to her monitoring station. Her fingers danced across the holographic controls, pulling apart layers of data like a skilled surgeon examining a complex medical image. Something was different. The energy readings were unlike anything she had seen before. "Captain," she said slowly, "these readings don't match any known stellar phenomenon. It's almost like someone is watching us." Hyun-woo Lee, the ship's communication specialist, looked up from his console. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by a tight tension around his eyes. "I'm picking up multiple communication signals. They're not random. They're structured, deliberate." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member knew what that meant. In the vast emptiness of space, structured signals could mean only one thing. They were not alone. A sudden burst of light filled the bridge. The holographic displays flickered and died. Emergency red lights began to pulse, casting long shadows across the worried faces of the crew. Captain Kim gripped the edge of his command chair, his knuckles turning white. "Status report," he barked. Before anyone could respond, a massive shape materialized outside the ship's viewing window. It was unlike any vessel humans had ever encountered. The ship, if it could be called a ship, looked more like a living organism. Its surface shifted and moved, changing colors and shapes with each passing second. Metallic tendrils extended from its body, reaching toward the ISS Daegu like curious fingers. Yuna's voice cut through the tension. "It's scanning us. Every system, every piece of data. It's like we're being analyzed." A sound began to fill the bridge. It wasn't a sound in the traditional sense. It was more like a feeling that became noise. Words formed in the minds of the crew, not heard through their ears, but understood directly in their thoughts. "Resource identification complete," the voice, if it could be called a voice, announced. "Biological extraction sequence INITIAED." Captain Kim's hand moved to the emergency communication panel. "This is Captain Jae-sung Kim of the International Space Station Daegu. We are a research vessel on a peaceful mission. Identify yourself." The response was chilling in its complete lack of emotion. "Identification, ARRELEVANT. Species, human. CLA certification, harvestable resource." Hyun-woo looked up, his face pale. "Captain, they're preparing to board. Our shields are down. Our weapons air." A loud crash interrupted him. Something was cutting through the ship's hull. Metallic tendrils began to push through the breach, moving with a terrifying precision that suggested more than simple mechanical movement. The first contact with the Vortex Collective was nothing like humanity had ever imagined. This was not a meeting of civilizations. This was a harvesting. And the harvest was about to begin. Lieutenant Suk-jin Choi woke up in darkness. His head throbbed, and cold metal pressed against his back. Slowly, he realized he was not on the ISS Daegu anymore. Shapes moved around him. Strange, fluid shapes that seemed to flow like liquid metal. "Everyone alive," he whispered. Soft groans answered him. 8 crew members had been taken. 8 humans trapped in an alien environment that felt more like a living organism than a ship. A soft blue light began to pulse around them. The walls, if they could be called walls, seemed to breathe. They moved and shifted, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. Seok-jin counted 5 other crew members fully conscious. Park Min-ki, the ship's engineer; Kim Jae-yun, a medical specialist; Lee Dong-huk, a systems analyst; Choi Yun-ji, a xenobiologist; and Kang Sun-ho, their tactical officer. "They're studying us," Park Min-ki said, his voice low and careful. "Look at how the environment changes when one of us moves." He was right. Every time a prisoner shifted, the metallic walls would ripple and adjust. Sensors, or something like sensors, seemed to be watching their every move. It was like being inside a giant, living computer that was trying to understand its subjects. Kim Jae-yun was the first to notice something strange. "Our wounds," she said, touching a cut on her arm. "They're healing faster than normal. Something in this environment is accelerating our cellular regeneration." Choi Eun-jae leaned closer, her scientific curiosity overriding her fear. "This isn't just medical technology. This is something else entirely. They're not just capturing us. They're processing us." The alien communication continued, not with words, but with waves of information that pressed against their minds. The humans could feel the alien consciousness probing, searching, analyzing. But something was wrong with their analysis. The Vortex Collective was trying to understand humanity through pure data. They looked at humans like a computer might, as a set of predictable inputs and outputs. They saw patterns, calculations, measurable responses. What they could not understand was human emotion, creativity, the ability to act completely outside of logical prediction. Seok-jin watched the walls. He noticed something the aliens did not. Each time they tried to categorize the humans, the environment would slightly change, almost like the ship was confused. "We're not just data," he muttered. "We're something more." Lee Dong-hyuk had been quietly working. His fingers moved across a small device he had hidden during the capture. "I'm picking up communication signals," he whispered. "Fragmented. But I think I can build something." Suddenly, a section of the wall opened. Metallic tendrils reached out, moving towards Kang Sung-ho. The tactical officer didn't wait. In a move that surprised even himself, he grabbed one of the tendrils and yanked it hard. The entire ship seemed to shudder. For the first time since their capture, the humans heard something like a sound of surprise from the alien consciousness. They weren't just prisoners. They were becoming a problem the Vortex Collective had not predicted. And problems needed to be solved. Back on the damaged ISS Daegu, Captain Jae-sung Kim was not giving up. The ship looked broken, with metal panels hanging loose and emergency lights flickering. But broken did not mean defeated. "Hanwoo," he called to the communication specialist. "Can you get any signal from the capture team?" Hanwoo's fingers flew across the damaged control panel. Static crackled. Broken signals jumped and danced. Then, for a moment, something clear came through. A series of numbers. A pattern. "It's them," Hanwoo said, his voice tight with excitement. "They're sending a message." Meanwhile, inside the alien vessel, Lieutenant Seok-jin Choi was putting a plan into motion. Lee Dong-hyuk had managed to create a small device from pieces of their environment. It looked like nothing, just a tiny collection of wires and metal fragments. But to the crew, it was hope. "We need to disrupt their communication," Seok-jin whispered to his team. "If we can break their connection, we might have a chance." Kim Jae-yun noticed something strange about their alien prison. The walls responded to emotion. When someone felt fear, the walls would tighten. When someone felt angry, the walls would pulse differently. It was as if the entire ship was one big nervous system. Kang Sung-ho had an idea. "Emotional chaos," he said. "We need to create confusion." The plan was simple but crazy. They would use their emotions as a weapon. Park Min-ki started first. He thought about his family back on Earth. Memories of his daughter's last birthday. The smell of his wife's cooking. The love he felt burst out like a wave. The ship trembled. Choi Eun-ji followed. She remembered her scientific achievements, the pride of discovery, the excitement of understanding something new. Another tremor. One by one, each crew member released a storm of human emotions. Happiness, anger, love, grief, hope, fear. These were not logical. These were not predictable. The alien vessel did not know how to process this. Lee Dong-Huk's small device began to work. It sent out pulses that matched the emotional energy. Each pulse was like a hammer breaking through the alien ship's defenses. Suddenly, a pathway opened. "Now!" Seok-Jin shouted. They moved fast. The alien ship was confused, its systems disrupted by the human emotional storm. Metallic tendrils that usually moved with perfect precision now twisted and turned randomly. Kang Sung-ho found a control panel. His tactical training kicked in. He didn't try to understand the alien technology. He just started breaking things. Kim Jae-yun used her medical knowledge to identify weak points in the ship's biological systems. Each touch was precise, each movement calculated to cause maximum disruption. The escape was not elegant. It was not a perfect military operation. It was messy. It was human. As they broke through a section of the ship, Seok-Jin looked back. The alien vessel was in chaos. Their weapon had been information and cold logic. The humans' weapon was something they could never understand. Emotion, unpredictability, the ability to feel. They were bringing the fight to the Vortex Collective. And this was just the beginning. Hyun-Woo Lee sat in the damaged communications room of the ISS Daegu. His hands moved quickly, capturing and analyzing the strange signals they had received during the alien attack. Most people would see nothing but noise, but Hyun-Woo saw patterns. "Captain," he called out, "I think I found something big." Captain Jae-Sung Kim walked over, his eyes tired but still sharp. The ship looked like it had been through a war. Broken panels hung from the walls. Emergency lights flickered, but the crew was alive, and they were fighting back. Hyun-Woo pulled up a holographic display. Complex patterns of light and color danced in the air. "These are not just random signals," he explained. "This is a communication network. The Vortex Collective doesn't just attack, they harvest." The display showed a massive web of connections, hundreds of star systems, thousands of signals. It was like looking at a giant brain made of light and data. "They'd been doing this for a long time," Hyun-Woo continued. "Different species, different planets, always the same method. They find a civilization. They study it. Then they extract its resources." Captain Kim's face grew hard. "Resources meaning people." Hyun-Woo nodded. "Not just people. Everything. Knowledge, genetic material, technological innovations. They treat entire civilizations like data to be collected and processed." Meanwhile, on the alien vessel, Lieutenant Seok-Jin and his escape team were not sitting still. They had found a communication room, if it could be called a room. It was more like a living network of flowing information. "We need to understand their system," Choi Eun-ji said. She was already working, her fingers moving across alien interfaces that seemed to respond to her touch. Lee Dong-Hyuk had been quiet, but now he spoke up. "I think I can create a virus," he said. "Not a computer virus, something that attacks their way of thinking." The others looked at him. "They process information like a machine," Dong-Hyuk explained. "Pure logic, no emotion, no creativity. We can use that against them." Park Min-keev understood first. "We create something that doesn't make sense, something completely illogical." Choi Eun-ji's eyes lit up. A communication signal that breaks their understanding of information itself. Back on the Daegu, Captain Kim was making plans. "We're not just defending," he told Yuna Park and Hyun-Woo. "We're going to fight back." Yuna had been studying the alien signals. "Their entire network is connected," she said. "If we can introduce a disruption in one place, it could spread." Hyun-Woo was already working. His fingers moved fast, creating complex communication patterns that looked like random noise. But it wasn't random. It was a weapon. The Vortex Collective had made a mistake. They thought they could treat living beings like data points, like numbers to be collected and processed. They were about to learn the true power of human creativity. The counterattack was beginning. The communication hub of the Vortex Collective looked like a star made of light and metal. Millions of signals moved through its core every second. It was the brain of their entire harvesting network. No one had ever damaged it. No one had ever even tried. Until now. Captain Jae-sung Kim stood on the bridge of the ISS Daegu. The ship no longer looked like a research vessel. It had become a weapon. Panels had been rebuilt using stolen alien technology. Weapons that should not exist had been created from broken parts. Yuna, he called to his science officer. Are you ready? Yuna Park's fingers danced across the control panel. Her eyes were sharp. Her mind was focused. We have one chance, she said. One moment of surprise. Hyun-woo Lee had done something impossible. He had created a communication virus that was more than just computer code. It was a message designed to break the Vortex Collective's understanding of information itself. It's like speaking a language they can't translate. Hyun-woo explained earlier. Imagine trying to explain color to someone who only sees in black and white. But worse. The plan was simple but crazy. They would attack the communication hub with a weapon the aliens could not understand. Human emotion. The first wave came as a burst of pure, raw feeling. Memories of love, moments of joy, the pain of loss, the hope of future dreams. These were not logical signals. These were not data points to be processed. These were human experiences. The communication hub began to change. Its perfect light started to flicker. Signals became confused. For the first time in thousands of years, the Vortex Collective experienced something like confusion. Now, Captain Kim shouted. Yuna launched the next phase, a series of signals that made no sense, mathematical equations that broke their own rules, emotional patterns that shifted and changed without warning. The hub began to break. Metallic tendrils that usually moved with perfect precision now twisted randomly. Information streams began to collapse. The perfect network started to fall apart. On the alien communication channels, something like panic began to spread. They had never considered that a species could attack them like this. With emotion, with creativity, with pure, unpredictable human spirit. A massive explosion of light erupted from the communication hub. Not a physical explosion. Something else. A collapse of information. A breakdown of their entire system. Lieutenant Suk-jin, still aboard the captured alien vessel, felt the change. We did it, he whispered. The Vortex Collective had believed they could treat living beings like numbers, like data to be collected and processed. They were wrong. Humanity had just shown them the true meaning of resistance. And this was only the beginning. News travels fast in space, but on this day, news traveled faster than light. The destruction of the Vortex Collective's communication hub sent a wave of hope through the galaxy. Species that had been silent for generations suddenly found their voices. Species that had been hunted now saw a chance to fight back. Hyun-woo Lee became the unexpected diplomat of humanity. His communication skills, which had once been used to analyze signals, now brought alien species together. The first to respond was a species called the Luminary. They looked like living crystals, their bodies shifting between solid and liquid states. For centuries, the Vortex Collective had kept them trapped in special containment zones, studying their unique ability to store and transfer energy. We heard your signal, their representative told Hyun-woo. The communication was strange. Part sound, part light, part emotion. You broke something we could not break. Aboard the ISS Daegu, Captain Jae-sung Kim listened carefully. Yuna Park translated the complex communication, her scientific mind working overtime to understand the nuances. They're not just offering help, Yuna explained. They're asking to join us. More messages came. The Breather Collective, a species of floating gas-based beings. The Stone Makers, silicon-based life forms from a distant cluster. Each had a story of capture, of being treated as resources, of losing their freedom. Hyun-woo created a communication network unlike anything in galactic history. It wasn't about perfect signals or logical connections. It was about sharing experiences, about understanding. Lieutenant Suk-jin still working to understand the alien technology they had captured, found something important. Their entire system is based on prediction, he told his team. They can only fight what they can predict. Park Min-ki, the engineer, understood first. So we need to be completely unpredictable. The captured alien vessel became their new research center. Each day, they learned more. Each hour, they found new ways to fight back. Captain Kim made a decision. We're not just defending anymore, he told his crew. We're going to help others defend themselves. The first alliance meeting was strange. Humans, Luminary, Brother Collective, and stonemakers gathered in a space that was neither a ship nor a station. It was a place between places, a diplomatic bubble created by their combined technologies. Each species brought something different. The Luminary brought their energy manipulation skills. The Breather Collective brought their ability to move through almost any environment. The stonemakers brought their incredible durability. Humans brought something else entirely: creativity, emotion, the ability to think beyond logical limits. The Vortex Collective sees the universe as a problem to be solved. Hanbu explained, we see it as a story to be lived. The other species looked at each other. Something was changing. For the first time in generations, they felt hope. Humanity had not just fought back. They had shown the galaxy that there was another way to exist. A way of freedom. A way of connection. A way of hope. The Carina Nebula turned red, not with light, not with fire, but with the massive fleet of the Vortex Collective. Thousands of ships stretched across space. Each one looked exactly the same. Perfect. Identical. A machine's idea of perfection. They moved together like a single organism, ready to crush the resistance that had damaged their communication network. Captain Jae-sung Kim looked at the display. The odds were impossible. They're sending everything, Unipark said quietly. The Allied fleet looked small. Humans, Luminary, Brother Collective, stonemakers. Each species had brought what they could. It was not a perfect military force. It was a collection of survivors. They think we'll fight like they do, Lieutenant Suk-jin said. He was studying the captured alien technology, with perfect plans, with logical moves. Hyun-woo Lee had been working on something special, a communication system that was more than just a way to talk. It was a weapon. Ready, he called out. As the Vortex Collective fleet approached, something strange happened. The Allied ships did not move in formation. They did not follow a perfect pattern. They moved like living things, like creatures with feelings, with hope. The first wave of attack came from the Vortex Collective, energy beams that should have destroyed entire sections of the Allied fleet. But something was different. The human ships did not try to block the attacks. They danced. They moved in ways that made no sense. Spinning, jumping, changing direction for no logical reason. The perfect alien targeting systems could not understand what they were seeing. Yuna had discovered something about the alien technology. Their entire system was based on prediction. They could only fight what they could calculate. Humans were not calculable. The Luminary ships began to change. Their crystal bodies shifted. They absorbed the alien energy attacks and transformed them, turning weapons into something else entirely. The Breather Collective moved between the ships like living clouds. They confused the alien sensors. They were everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Stonemaker vessels, solid and strong, became living shields, but not in a way anyone could predict. Hyunwoo's communication weapon worked perfectly. It sent out signals that were more than just information. They were stories, memories, emotions that the alien systems could not process. Some alien ships simply stopped. Their perfect systems could not understand what was happening. Other ships began to fight each other. Their logical networks became confused. They could not tell friend from enemy. Captain Kim watched the battle. This was not a traditional fight. This was something else. We're not just fighting, he said quietly. We're showing them a different way to exist. The Vortex Collective had believed the universe was a problem to be solved, a system to be controlled. Humanity and its allies were showing them that the universe was alive, complex, beautiful, impossible to control. The battle was changing everything. Lieutenant Suk-jin knew they had one chance, one moment to end everything. The captured alien vessel had revealed its secrets. Deep in its core was something the Vortex Collective called the Central Intelligence. It was not a computer. It was not a living being. It was something in between, a massive network of processed information that controlled their entire civilization. "We can't destroy it," Suk-jin told his team. "We need to change it." Park Min-ki had been working on a special device. It looked like nothing, just a small collection of wires and alien technology. But it was something more, a way to introduce pure human complexity into a system that only understood simple logic. Choi Eun-ji understood first. "We're going to rewrite their entire understanding of existence," she said. The plan was dangerous. Seok-jin would leave a small team directly into the heart of the Vortex Collective's most protected space. While the battle raged outside, they would slip through the chaos. Kim Jae-hyun prepared the emotional payload. Memories, experiences, feelings that could not be processed by a logical system. Each memory was a weapon, each emotion a strike against pure calculation. Lee Dong-hook had created something special. A communication virus that was more than just code. It was a way of thinking. A virus that would spread through the entire Vortex Collective network. Their ship moved like a ghost. The ongoing battle provided perfect cover. Alien vessels fought and crashed around them. The luminary ships created waves of energy that confused enemy sensors. The Breather Collective moved like living shadows. They reached the central core. It was beautiful and terrible. A massive network of light and information. Streams of data moved like rivers. Calculations happened faster than thought. This was the brain of the Vortex Collective, the place where they processed everything in the universe. "Now," Suk-jin said. Park Min-ki's device activated. It was not an attack. It was an introduction. Memories began to flood the system. A child's first laugh. The pain of losing a loved one. The joy of discovery. The hope of a new day. These were not data points. These were experiences. The Central Intelligence began to change. Calculations that had been perfect for thousands of years suddenly stopped making sense. The system tried to understand. But understanding was more than just processing information. Lee Dong-hook's virus spread. It was not destroying the system. It was changing how the system thought. Kim Jae-hyun watched the readings. "It's learning," she whispered. "Really learning." The Vortex Collective had believed the universe could be understood through pure logic. They were about to learn something else entirely. That life was more than calculation. That emotion was a form of intelligence. That being alive meant more than just processing information. The central core began to pulse, not with machine energy, but with something else. Something alive. 1 month after the battle, the universe looked different. The ISS Daegu sat in orbit around a new meeting place. It was not a station. It was not a planet. It was something in between. A place where different species could come together and truly communicate. Captain Jae-sum Kim stood on the bridge. The ship that had once been a simple research vessel was now a symbol of something more. Of hope. Of resistance. "We didn't just fight a war," he told Yuna Park and Hyun-woo Lee. "We changed how entire civilizations understand each other." The Vortex Collective was gone. Not destroyed. Changed. Their entire system of thinking had been rewritten. They were learning to see the universe differently, to understand that life was more than just data to be collected. Lieutenant Suk-jin had returned from the Central Intelligence mission changed. The experience of introducing human emotion into an entirely logical system had transformed him. He understood now that communication was more than just exchanging information. The allied species had created something new. A galactic council where every voice mattered, where differences were celebrated, where logic and emotion could exist together. The luminary brought their ability to store and transfer energy. The Breather Collective shared their understanding of adaptation. The Stonemakers contributed their incredible durability. Humans brought something special, the ability to dream, to imagine, to hope. Hyun-Woo Lee had become the primary diplomat. His skills in communication went far beyond simple language. He could help different species truly understand each other. We're not just sharing information, he would explain. We're sharing experiences. Choi Eun-ji continued her research. The mission had shown that life was far more complex than anyone had ever imagined. Each species had something unique to offer. Each civilization had a story to tell. Park Min-ki worked on new technologies. Technologies that combined the best of different species. Machines that fought like living things. Systems that could feel as well as calculate. The galaxy was healing. Species that had been isolated for generations were now talking, sharing, growing together. Captain Kim looked out at the stars. The universe seemed larger and smaller at the same time. Larger because they had discovered how much was possible. Smaller because they had learned how connected everything truly was. Kim Jae-yun approached him. "What do we do now?" she asked. The captain smiled. "We explore," he said. "We learn. We grow." The ISS Daegu began to move, not on a mission of research, not on a mission of war, but on a mission of understanding. Humanity had entered the galaxy not as conquerors, not as victims, but as partners, as friends. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter.